Good afternoon on this Thursday afternoon. Missouri 8-man football. We are into the second round of the playoffs. You can see I am Devin Albertson as we have the Mo 8-man football. I'm taking my glasses off so there's no glare. But Mo 8-man football coming this Friday night and one game on Saturday for the playoffs in the second round. Only 16 teams remain in the playoffs, eliminating 8 teams last week. The playoffs will eliminate 8 more teams this week. As you know, I am Devin Albertson. Make sure you follow me on Twitter. Also, follow Mo 8-Man Football on Twitter for all things 8-Man Football. One more look at the power rankings they released before the playoffs started. Worth County, Sacred Heart, Rockport, Stanberry, Mound City, Greenfield. Stanberry did not. So Worth County, Sacred Heart, Rockport, Mound City, Greenfield, King City, and North Andrew all had byes last week. So they all survived and moved on. East Atchison, they won along with Stanberry. Chillicothe did not win. They lost to Osceola week one. We'll take a look real quick at the playoff bracket. Sorry, wrong button. It's kind of hard to see with that right there, but no, only one really big upset last week. That was Osceola taking down taking down Chillicothe in that one. It was a nice game down south. That game was 56-6 Osceola. That was Super Region. That was District 4. Also, Northern Hardin Central took down Northwest Hughesville in a pretty predictable game, 68-8. Moved District 3. Bramer, they did upset Stewartsville in a mini upset there, 80-42. And Pattonsburg took down North Shelby, 70-30. But North Shelby should be good next year. There's a lot of returning talent with them. They'll be much improved in the next season. We'll get to Pattonsburg here in a minute and their star player. District 2, St. Joe Christian took care of DeKalb 60-6, and South Navajo Hill took care of Platte Valley 52-6. No surprises there. Stanberry took down Albany 78-26. The game was close for a long time before Stanberry pulled away late. And then finally, East Atchison took down Northwest Nottoway 78-20. And that game was never really in doubt. It's the game I did last Friday for KNIM. It was an interesting game to see how well East Atchison's progressed throughout the year. But nicely done by East Atchison to move on in the playoffs to the second round. I'm sorry there for that graphic, shouldn't have been there. But yeah, so that's what they have right there for the playoff. That's the entire playoff picture. We're going to go now and break it down to each district here. District number 1. And I'll get all this other stuff off the screen for you. Sorry. District number 1, you got Worth County taking on East Atchison, the top 10 matchup in the state. I believe Worth County is going to roll in this one. They're just that good right now. Game's over in Grant City. And then Rockport versus Stanberry, the 2-3 matchup. 2 top 5 teams in the state right now. Should be an interesting matchup in Rockport. I'm torn on this one. I'm not sure who I think is going to win this game. It's just so hard without seeing the 275 GRC crossover games. They do have a game in common with East Atchison, but both teams won at halftime. I think Rockport won 50-0, and East Atchison and Stanberry won like 52-6. So both these teams dominated against East Atchison, their only common opponent. So it's really difficult to see how they'll match up with each other. But I'm going to give the slightest of edges to Stanberry in this one, actually. I think Stanberry is going to pull off the upset on the road. I think their running attack is just good enough. It's going to be a high-scoring game. I expect a lot of points this game. I really don't have – I'm just going straight gut with this one because I really don't know. If you look at Rockport, Jace Hughes, he's 4th in the state according to Mo8mancoaches.com at passing yards, 1,100 yards this year, 25 touchdowns, only 6 interceptions. He's had a stellar year for Rockport. He's actually 3rd in the state in passing touchdowns. Rushing yards, Rockport has even in the top 10, but Stanberry has 2 guys. Number 2, Trey Schieber, 1,400 yards this year, 26 touchdowns. And their quarterback, Cole Durbin, he has 1,200 yards and 22 touchdowns, as he also has kicked in 400 yards and 11 touchdowns passing. So he's been really efficient this year. They also have a lot of top receiving options in the state. He's not for yardage-wise, but if you look at Haley, he's a very good receiver for Stanberry as well. I think they're just good enough in that rushing attack to come away with the win in this one. So I expect a lot of points this one, though. Stanberry can run the ball really well. Rockport is effective in their running game. They don't have a lot of guys who will just wow you with their yardage numbers this year. But Brock Martin, he has almost 500 yards. Quentin Carter, he has 430. Gavin Abbott, he has almost 400. Caden Lithcomb, he has a little over 300. Hughes has 180. They still have a lot of guys they kind of hit you with, a lot of misdirection with them. Abbott has the most touchdowns on the team with 10, with Martin and Carter both have 8, Linthicum 6. They also, for the receiving options, Cade Linthicum's their best receiver with 537 yards, 13 touchdowns. Ryan Dewhurst, 490 with 12 touchdowns. So that's two big guys they go to in the passing game. But I just think Stanberry has just enough athletes to come away with a win there. Also, one thing to note for the Worth County East Ashton game, Tevin Cameron for Worth County, he has 94 carries for 1,353 yards, a little over 14 yards to carry. He also leads the state with 31 touchdowns rushing on the year. There are, I believe, 10 guys. Let me count this up real quick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 guys with 1,000 yards this year, and he is the only one with less than 100 carries. The other one's close was North Shelby's Mason Yolmeyer. He has 102 carries for 1,000 yards. He has 94 for over 1,300, so he's been that good this year. He's actually third in the state in rushing yards this year, behind Trey Schieber and then Zach Pearson. We'll get to a little bit from Norbert Hardin Central, but he has almost 100 less carries than Pearson and 50 less carries than Trey Schieber, and he's within 200 yards of both of them for the rushing lead in the year. He's been that just explosive there for Worth County. So I think Worth County and Stanberry win their respective games, and they meet in the district championship game next Friday, November 3rd, over in Grant City for a rematch of that Week 9 matchup that I called for KNIM. But the Rockport-Stanberry game I think is going to be the best game of round 2. It's why it's so close to decide between the two. We'll go to District 2 real quick. I think two really good matchups here. Mound City hosting St. Joe Christian. If you look at Christian, they have the fourth leading rusher in the state in Braden George. 133 carries for 1,344 yards, 26 touchdowns, which is the second most in the state this year. He's been their bell cow. He's been a really good running back for him this year. Ben Craven's their quarterback. He has 700 yards, 10 touchdowns, 10 picks for him this season. They finally put some stats up on Mo 8-Man football to be able to kind of keep track of them a little better. Going this year, Craven also has over 500 yards rushing and 14 touchdowns. They're their two main guys, along with John Gregory and Malik Tucker. Tucker has 9 touchdowns this year as one of their backs as well. Christian's one of those teams that every year can kind of struggle a little bit out of the game. I mean, they lost to Pattonsburg week 1, lost to North Angel, lost to Stanberry. Started the year 0-3. And they beat Albany, lost to Worth County. They gave Worth County a decent game. Beat Northwest Norway, beat Bramer, lost to King City by 6, and then just beat DeKalb last week. So they're coming on stronger here towards the end of the year. They match up decently well with Mound City as well. With the combination of the Jewels, I think Steve's head coach this year with Marcus, one of the assistants. They'll have a solid team going into that game. I think Mound City wins that game, led by quarterback Dylan Mars. I think they have enough with him passing and rushing to win that game. Dylan has 866 yards passing, 18 touchdowns, I think 5 interceptions. He also leads the team with 800 yards rushing and 14 touchdowns. Also, senior running backs Austin Pankow and Dylan Fowler with 632 yards and 465 yards, respectively. Pankow has 8 touchdowns, Fowler with 12. Best receiving option they have is Matthew Papa. He's a really good receiver. 31 catches, 586 yards, 13 touchdowns. Pankow also does a nice job out of the backfield catching the ball. Has 5 receiving touchdowns this season. But I think Mound City has just enough. They had a bye last week, so Mars fell out of the top 10 in rushing for the year, but he's been a really nice back for Mound City this season. He's also done a nice job passing the ball. He is 5th in passing touchdowns with 18, but he's a little bit farther down. 7th in passing yards on the year. So I think he's done a nice job this year for him. He's a great athlete for Mound City. And I think that's going to be a fun game in Mound City. I think Mound City pulls away late, though, and wins that game and moves on in district play. And then you got North Andrew and South Holt. Not only Holt, I'm actually calling that game for KNIM. North Andrew does not put their stats on the 8-man coaches, so it's hard to tell how Powelson, their quarterback, would rank this season. I think he would probably be in the top 5 in passing yards. He does a nice job. Also, their receiver, Caleb Patterson, would probably lead the league in touchdown receptions this year. Going forward, he's been really nice for North Andrew this season in that passing attack. Also, Lance Strebe is a decent running back. And DeLong, the other receiver, does a nice job as well. I don't think North Andrew's line play is as good as it has been in the past. I think we've all kind of seen that with their 5-3 season this year after making the state championship game for 5 straight years. We had a 2 seed in the district. But I think they have a really solid team this year. And South Holt, Nottoway Holt, they're a team that, in my opinion, has underachieved a little bit this year. I mean, Weston Williams right now is Sixth in the league, is sixth in the state in rushing with 1,081 yards, 142 carries, and 16 touchdowns. He's been coming on strong as of late. I do know Eric Otten will be out for their playoff game, which is really going to hurt them with that quarterback position. But with Williams with over 1,000 yards and Cole Alloway with over 750 on the year with 14 touchdowns himself, they have a nice 1-2 punch there in the backfield with their freshman quarterback Drew Quinlan at quarterback. Who does have 323 yards passing and 5 touchdowns this year in split duty with Ottman there at quarterback. He's been nice this year. Reagan Morris, a decent receiver for him, 15 catches for 232 yards and 5 touchdowns. Cole Alloway leads the defense with 90 tackles this year. Tommy Thompson with 85. Williams with 78. So Jalen Valen's also been a nice D lineman for him this year as well. I'm calling this game for KNIM, so I won't give a score prediction, but I think the biggest key in this game is can South Holt, Nottoway Holt pass cover, which has always been a trouble for them ever since even I went to Nottoway Holt, so even when I was in high school, we really struggled with pass coverage at Nottoway Holt. We've never really got it fixed over the years, and I think that's some of the biggest key in this game is can South Holt, Nottoway Holt slow down North Andrews pass offense and get them off the field. So I think it's going to be a fun matchup. 7 o'clock kickoff there from outside of Rosendale for KNIM 95.9. Should be a fun game between North Andrew and South Holt, Nottoway Holt. Make sure you tune in for that, because I'll have that game for you. So should be a fun one. We'll go to the next matchup here. District 3, King City versus Bramer. Bramer didn't really put their stats up online, I don't believe, but King City, they've been passing the ball really well this year. Colin Breckenridge, their quarterback, through 8 games, has 1,400 yards, which is the second most in the state, and 24 touchdowns, only 2 interceptions. He's been just terrific this year for the Wildcats. He's also fourth in passing touchdowns with 24 touchdowns. Rushing yards, Jacob Moen, I think that's what they say his name, in 8 games, has almost 1,000 yards, 17 touchdowns. He's going to be trying to become the 9th guy in the state to rush for 1,000 yards this year. He's been a pretty good running back for him so far for the Wildcats. I look at their stats. Look like McCollin is their leading receiver, 479 yards and 6 touchdowns this season. So they have some nice options there, including Anthony Saunders, other receiver, has 9 receiving touchdowns this season. King City's been, I think, flying a little bit under the radar when it goes to state rankings a bit, because that week 1 game versus North Angel was canceled due to unfortunate circumstances. Then beating Osceola week 2, barely losing in that whole game at the stadium right before losing, beating Pattonsburg, losing to Worth County, which everyone does this year, beating Chillicothe, beating Bramer, beating Albany, barely beating Christian last week. I think they're kind of flying on the radar a little bit here. I think they'll take care of Bramer. I don't think Bramer's really all that good. They have 2 wins this year, including their win against Stewartsville last week. Their leading passer is Keaton Odell, 573 yards and 8 touchdowns this year. Leading rusher is Robbie Shue, a little over 800 yards, 882 yards and 10 touchdowns, along with Ryan Atherton with 791 with 14 touchdowns. So solid running attack there for Bramer, but with only 2 wins this year, with those wins being over North Shelby and Stewartsville. Not 2 great wins. They have been in a lot of games this year, including the game versus King City earlier this year, lost 60-24. So they might be able to stick with them for a little bit, but I don't think Bramer can quite win this game. So I'm giving King City the edge in that one to move on to the district championship game. Then Southwest Livingston versus Pattonsburg, 2 teams that have been a little bit up and down. If you look at Southwest Livingston first, the home team got a bye last week. They started the year 0-2, lost to East Ashton and South Holt, Nottoway Holt, then beat DeKalb, lost to Mound City, and they beat Stewartsville and Platte Valley, lost to Rockport, and then they ended the year with wins versus Northwest Nottoway and Northern Hardin Central. So a couple of decent wins there to end the year for the Wildcats, who've been a pretty decent team in the last couple of years. Leading rusher is Justin Stewart with 919 yards, which is 10th most in the state. He's got 15 touchdowns rushing as well. Mac Anderson, he has a little over 500 yards with 8 touchdowns. And Caleb Edens has 419 yards and 8 touchdowns. They've been nice there, 300 attack. Edens is their quarterback, 980 yards passing with 13 touchdowns. It's one of those teams that plays really, really physical. Stewart has 109 tackles on the year for the Wildcats, which is 5th most in the state. So it should be interesting to see how he matches up versus that Pattonsburg offense. Livingston just a really physical team that can give anybody a really bunch of troubles if they can't match that physicality. But if you look at Pattonsburg, it's a one-man offense. Cole Dilly, remember that name. He's played 10 games this year. Pattonsburg finally put in stats. This is why he kind of flew on the radar a little bit this year. He's 187 for 297 passing, so a pretty good completion percentage there for 2,548 yards, 43 touchdowns, and 11 interceptions. That's just through the air, because in the rushing game, he's also top 10 in the state at number 7 with 1,043 yards and 17 touchdowns, 177 carries. He's been dynamic this year. He has two receivers that are his go-to guys. Peyton Jones is leading receiver, 757 yards and 14 touchdowns, second most in the state. Trevor Ireland, he has 649 yards and 8 touchdowns. Also, Brett Emig has 480 yards and 7 touchdowns, and Cameron Jones, 462 and 9 touchdowns. So he's done a nice job this season. He won't break the passing yards that's set by Kobe Reynolds a few years ago from Northwest Nottoway, who had 4,358 touchdowns. But he's had a really nice season this year with 2,500 yards, 43 touchdowns. For Pattonsburg, they've been in a lot of high-scoring games in the GRC. The defense has struggled a bit for the Panthers. But if you look at them this year, look, week 1, 46-30 over Christian, then 72-44 over Bramer. Lost to North Andrew 60-20. Then they lost to King City 74-58. Lost to Stanberry 90-42. Lost to Norbert Hardin Central 52-50. Lost to Worth County 62-0. The only time they've scored less than 20 points this year. Beat KC East 88-30. Beat Albany 94-62. Beat North Shelby last week 70-30. This team can put up some points, and I think they've done a nice job this year so far. Last year they went 3-8. Was a nice season for Pattonsburg after being perennial dumpster doormat in the 8-man. They're 5-5 this year. Had a nice year in the GRC, going 3-4 in a tough conference. I think they win this week. They upset Pattonsburg in District 3 to move on to the district championship game versus King City. Then down here, Sacred Heart versus Norbert Hardin Central. Norbert Hardin Central, like I said earlier, Zach Pearson leads the state in rushing, but I think Sacred Heart's just too good. Hart doesn't put any stats up online, but I think Sacred Heart wins this game rather easily. And then Greenfield versus Osceola. Greenfield's playing some really good football, as is Osceola so far. These are the two independents in the state, actually, so they're playing each other this week. Earlier this year, in week 4, Greenfield won 52-20. Osceola does have a few stats up online through one game, but it's really hard to tell there. They started the year winless until they played Hughesville, and they beat Hughesville, beat Missouri School of Death, played Hardin Central really close, beat Pleasant Hope, and then beat Chillicothe last week in an upset. They've been playing some really good football as of late. And then if you look at Greenfield, quarterback Bailey Baker, 1,200 yards, 28 touchdowns in the year. He's been really good. He also leads the team with 444 yards rushing and 8 touchdowns, 9 touchdowns for Gage Burns. One of the teams that been blowing teams out besides Sacred Heart this year. They had a forfeit win over Union Christian Academy, beat Chillicothe pretty good earlier this year, beat Osceola, Marmaton Valley, Northwest Hughesville, and that biggest spread of the year, 102-0. Beat Colony Crest 50-0. Beat North Shelby 61-6. In the last game of the regular season, they got Osceola this week. I think Greenfield to be a really solid team. I think they have been solid the last couple of years. I think they win this game. They play Sacred Heart for the district championship game in a rematch of an earlier matchup that Sacred Heart won 53-16. Kind of the opposite of last year. Last year, Greenfield beat Sacred Heart in the regular season, then lost to Sacred Heart in the playoffs. We'll see if that switches over this year, but the Sacred Heart and Greenfield should be a fun matchup down there. My computer's about to die, so I'm going to cut the show off, but no 8-man football on Twitter. Devin Albert's also on Twitter. I'll be at North Andrew versus South Holt Nottoway Holt on Fridays. Hope everybody enjoyed the show. Have any questions, definitely shoot me a message. I'll try to answer it the best I can. We're also sad to see Greenfield leaving 8-man after this season, but we'll see what happens. When I talk to you next week, we'll have only 8 teams left in the Missouri 8-man playoffs, getting close. Only 4 weeks left, including this Friday. So we're getting down to the nitty-gritty. Hope that everybody listens on Friday for my game for South Holt Nottoway Holt versus North Andrew over outside of Rosendale on KNIM. Everybody has a great day and enjoy the rest of your weekend. I'll be on the X106 tomorrow. So that's all I got for you guys.